Hello, YTPC. Ethan, Parsimonious Piper here. Today, got some more morsels from mental manducation for you. But first, in a 3-star pipe by Lee apple squash tomato type thing. Nice little pipe. I've got some of Russ Willette's Firestorm. This is one of the vapors I like because it's got a healthy dose of dark-fired Kentucky thrown in. Delicious stuff. Okay, let's dive in. Inquiring minds want to know, how is it that the Miami Beach Police Department can arrest over 1,000 unruly spring breakers, but the Portland police can't seem to arrest very many rioters, looters, and burners of federal buildings? Just curious. Earlier this month, our Secretary of State met with the Chinese delegation in Alaska. According to inside accounts that were reported, in fact, in multiple media outlets, so don't even think I'm just following some alt-right conspiracy thing. China drank our milkshake. That didn't happen a year ago. The politicization of sports is getting old. It should be getting old for the players as well. Prior to its game against the Colorado Buffaloes, the entire Georgetown Hoyas basketball team knelt in protest during the national anthem. They proceeded to get their clocks cleaned by more than 20 points. Coach Ewing, you're a legend in basketball. Stick to it. Maybe you should teach your kids some more of the fundamentals instead of focusing so much on politics. All right, I told Tunnel I was going to go there. So here we go. Following the tragic mass shooting in Boulder last week, the left responded very predictably, but with what seems to be a new and darker twist. Twitter lit up with things like, and I want to read this so that I quote it correctly, "Extremely tired of people's lives depending on whether a white man with an AR-15 is having a good day or not." That was a senior editor at the left, I won't say leftist, but far left leaning site, Deadspin. A reply to that tweet said, "It's always an angry white man." That one came from, you'll love this, the editor for race, not diversity, the editor for Race and Inclusion at the USA Today. To their credit, the USA Today's credit, that editor has since been relieved of her duties. Well, the racism in those tweets and in much of the reaction that we saw didn't age very well, considering that once the facts began rolling in, which is what we really should be waiting for, it turns out that the perp was in fact a non-white, Syrian-born Muslim. Ouch. And in addition to that, his Facebook posts before Facebook shut down his account were very anti-Republican and anti-Trump. So this wasn't even a crazy nutjob right-wing leaning person to begin with. Gotta love it. Now, the strong anti-AR-15 sentiment there also doesn't hold up to any scrutiny if you really are interested in facts. Well, for one, it wasn't an AR-15. In fact, it wasn't a rifle at all. It was, in fact, a pistol that was used. But in case you're actually interested in facts regarding the use of AR-15 style single-shot semi-automatic rifles, there were 10 people killed. I believe the media is including the police officer, which is admirable because he certainly sacrificed himself in this instance. It should be noted that 3 times as many people were killed in the Virginia Tech massacre with a garden variety 9mm handgun. It doesn't take high capacity magazines or some, what the left call a high powered rifle. The AR-15 is not. In fact, our military has often complained about it not being high powered enough, the round that's used anyway, the .223. The Oklahoma City bombing back in the mid-90s killed 168 people. 0 guns. But I haven't heard anyone calling for banning cargo vans yet. According to the FBI, and I want to get these numbers right, in 2019, which was the last year for which we have full numbers that the FBI has published, almost 1,500 people were killed in the United States by knives and other cutting instruments. That's 3 times as many as were killed with all types of long arms, rifles, shotguns combined. 3 times. Knives. Anybody calling for a knife ban? Not yet. It'll come. 600 people were killed by hands, feet, or fists. That's still more than were killed by rifles. One of our problems is that we are focusing so much on an inanimate object instead of putting the blame and working on solutions where the real problem lies, and that is a heart of evil. On the subject of gun control, one of the things that the left and the right generally agrees on, at least on the surface, is that we should be keeping firearms out of the hands of people who are not lawfully permitted to own or purchase them. For example, on the federal form that you have to fill out when you apply to purchase a firearm from a licensed dealer, there's a question about your narcotics use. To lie on this form is a federal offense. In fact, it's a felony with penalties up to 10 years. We don't very often prosecute people for lying on this form. Why do we need new laws if we don't prosecute people for the ones that we already have? Case in point, Hunter Biden is very well known for having had an issue with cocaine. In fact, he lost his Navy career over it, and his family has discussed his drug use and addiction a number of times. Politico, not exactly a right-leaning website, released a photocopy. Not sure how they obtained it. It's called journalism. A rare case in this instance. Of his federal form. To which, on that question, he answered no. convince me that you're serious about gun control and about keeping arms out of the hands of prohibited possessors by prosecuting Hunter Biden. Even if you don't get a conviction, at least convince me you're serious about it by prosecuting him. You would have if I had done that, guaranteed. Last week, Black Lives Matter shut down a Rochester, New York Wegmans grocery store. Part of their protest there was because Wegmans is white supremacist. Go figure. Their evidence, and I kid you not, the organizer of the event claimed as evidence of Wegmans' white supremacy that they employ uniformed officers for security. I'll let that sink in. To a normal, sane person, the sheer new level of ludicrous of that, and similar statements that have been made over the last year, it needs no explanation. If you're not a rational person, no explanation will really help in this particularly sad case. So now, the use of uniformed security is white supremacy, because we want to protect our customers and our property from unlawful thugs who would otherwise damage, steal, destroy. These kinds of protests have have passed beyond the peaceful and legal demonstration level. They are in fact criminal trespass. And if you read federal law, they meet the statutory definition of domestic terrorism. Don't expect them to be prosecuted as such. In Miami last week, in a terribly sad story, get relit. Two white males drugged a black female, took her back to her hotel room, repeatedly raped her, left her for dead, and then took her cash and credit cards out on a spending spree. Okay, well, that's not quite true. It was actually two black males who did this to a white female, but the chances are really good that you haven't heard much about this in the news. If the roles had been reversed, if the races had been reversed, you certainly would have. Have they been charged with a hate crime? No, of course not. City of Oakland is helping to helping to deploy a privately funded program that will provide a minimum guaranteed income to low-income families of $500 a month or so, something in that range. If you're not white. If you're not white. Gotta love that. Think that's not racist? Can you imagine a city helping to deploy a low-income project where they gave away $500 a month to low-income families, but only if you were white? Yeah, me neither. This is where the left is going, though. And they actually have a word that we've heard quite a bit over the last year for this. It's called institutional racism. Lastly, I want to leave you with a little bit of humor. Vice President Harris, who slept her way into politics, having a conversation about empowering girls and women with none other than Bill Clinton. No commentary needed. With that, folks, the world is still good, despite the outer evidence to the contrary. Light something you like. Enjoy your afternoon.